Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another week. I am so glad we are back together. I'm your host, Mary, for those of you who are new, and hello to those of you who are returning. I guess this is the first time in a few weeks that I've recorded because it has been a bit of a busy time for me, and we did take a bit of time off. We skipped last week's episode just with everything going on in the world. I'm going to be honest, it just felt really heavy to share a podcast with everything that's going on and just irrelevant in terms of where our attention and efforts are being focused. So I just wanted to get everyone a bit of space to navigate what they're going through, what they're feeling. And I just want to remind you that there is no right or wrong feelings that we are having right now. There's probably so many different emotions you are experiencing that together we're all experiencing. And I just want you to remember to be kind to yourself with what you're feeling. Maybe you're having a harder day than other days and you're not really sure why, and that's totally okay. That is just part of navigating a lot of heavy things that, we would never have imagined that we would be navigating. And hopefully this is something that we do not have to navigate much longer and that our lifetime never sees this again. So I just want you to know that you are not alone in what you're going through. There is so many communities that are, really growing together. And I think that's the biggest thing, is to be able to unite together. And that's really what I'm trying to do here with the Self-Love Club, is just make sure that this is a space where people can come to feel refreshed, to feel connected, to feel heard and seen, all of those different good things. And just know that you're not alone. And that's why I am glad that we are back together, because building community is so important to me. And on that note, if you have listened or this is your first time and you're already loving the first minute and a half of this episode, I would love if you could rate us and review us, whether that's on Apple or Spotify or whatever platform you're listening to. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed as well. But a rating would go far, because we are building this community and it really helps us stand out in the noisy space, which is a lot of podcasts right now. So it would definitely be beneficial to us and to others that are looking to build community and find a place that feels like home for them. So thank you if you've already done that. Anyways, we have been chatting about, well, I guess we've only talked about this once. Like I said, I've been away from the podcast for a little bit. I've had a lot of personal things going on, which I will share as this episode continues. But we have been chatting about our October intention, which is trust. So I know we talked a little bit about, building your self-trust, because I think that's the most important trust. But one thing that I really wanted to touch on in terms of trust, because it's something that I've had to understand and grow through over, I would say, 15 plus years, is trust in your body. And I know that might sound a bit confusing, because even as I say it, I'm like, what does that really mean? But we understand trust your intuition and trust your gut and finding that inner voice. I think that's something that we hear a lot more often. But when it comes to trusting your body, I'm talking about your physical body and what your physical body is telling you, because it can tell you a lot of things, and it can also be hard to understand what your body is telling you and what you're feeling. And that is something that I have struggled with. I would say not my entire life, but my whole adult life, is learning to trust my body, to hear my body, and then to be able to advocate for it is a big part of trusting your body, is knowing that what you're feeling is true. It is exactly what you're going through, and it's something that you need to speak up on. So to give you a little bit of a backstory, I'll give you a rundown of where I've been the past 2 weeks, and then I'll dive into the backstory. So just about 2 weeks ago, well, I guess now it'll be over 2 weeks when this podcast airs, but just about 2 weeks ago, I had surgery for my endometriosis, which is a disease that affects basically your uterus, your ovaries, fallopian tubes, and it can affect other organs, but it is something that does require surgery for treatment and technically for diagnosis as well. and I had a laparoscopic surgery here in LA. So I had surgery away from home, as one of my friends was asking me. She's like, how did it feel to have surgery in like a different country? And in all honesty, it didn't even hit me that I was having surgery in a different country, being Canadian and living in LA and having surgery in LA. But the biggest thing is I do feel like LA is home now. So it made sense for me to have surgery where I feel at home, because recovery was definitely challenging. I was very prepared to experience pain and discomfort from the surgery, but the exhaustion that I felt was not something that I was prepared for. So definitely hit me pretty hard. And I'm glad that I was in my own home to recover from that, rather than being, in a different city, whether that's Toronto or Ottawa where my family is, and just not feeling like I'm completely able to rest. So the long story is the endometriosis. I have struggled with a lot of chronic pain in terms of cramps and navigating what would be considered a quote unquote normal period, which I'm just going to start by saying, if you have pain during your period that limits you from going out, from working, from being able to do like day-to-day things, that is not normal. We are not told that, and I don't know why, but we are not told that that is not normal. And that's something that you need to be trusting and listening to your body for. If your body is in physical pain, it's trying to tell you something. It's saying whether something's wrong, you're not giving it enough rest, that there's something you need to look into. That is something you really do need to trust. And for me, it took a while to learn that. So when I got my first period back when I was 14, it was just before, I think it was like actually just after my 14th birthday. So I was considered a late bloomer back then. And trust me, all I wanted was to get my period. And I have no idea why, now that I've lived with it for a long time since. But I got my period and I dealt with cramps, which I thought were normal. My mom also had a lot of cramps when she was in her younger years, and so told me that that was normal for her. And likely if your mother, your aunts, your grandmother had cramps, you're also told that that's normal for you. But then at 15, I ended up having an ovarian cyst rupture. And I can tell you at the age of 15 that was a crazy amount of pain and a huge shock to my system, because I had no idea what was going on. I actually woke up in the middle of the night in so much pain and discomfort, and I went to the hospital and had a variety of different treatments while I was at the hospital, and followed up with different imaging to confirm that the cyst did rupture. And at that time, I was then put on birth control. So at age 15, I was put on birth control to help with the cramps and also to help minimize, ideally, more cysts growing. I wasn't told anything about why this was happening either, just so you know. This was just cause and solution, which is basically what the doctors thought. The cause is, something to do with your hormones. We're not going to tell you what, but the solution is birth control. And so from a very young age, at 15, I was put on birth control, and I still had such severe cramps that it was really hard for me to go to school. I was dealing with a lot of pain. I had prescription medicine for the cramping so that I would take every month during my period. And it got to a point that by the end of high school, I was taking my birth control pill 3 months in a row. So I was only getting my period every 3 months. And yeah, not ideal when you are young and you're still basically developing and growing. And I knew something still wasn't right. I still had cramps. I was still taking medication to deal with the cramps while being on birth control, which was supposed to normalize or stabilize my hormones. And so by the time that I was 18 and 19, I realized, I really need to start listening to what's going on with my body. Why am I feeling this way? Why is the birth control, which is supposed to be the solution, not actually solving anything? And how can I get some sort of relief? Because I was not dealing with this very well. At this point, I was dealing with cramps not only during my period, but also during what would be considered sort of like your ovulation time frame, where your hormones drop. Even while being on the birth control pill, you kind of follow a fake natural cycle. So during that time when your hormones drop, which would be your natural ovulation, or I guess actually your hormones spike at that time. But I was dealing with cramping and pretty severe bloating throughout all of that. And I was seeing multiple different gynecologists, different doctors. And this was when I was moving from my small town outside of Ottawa to Toronto. And so it was a bit harder to find care because I was finding new doctors. I was finding and building a new team to support me. And it's a lot of times you are talking about things for the first time with someone that they don't necessarily believe it's as serious as you may say. But it is something that I was very convicted in. I had to speak up for my body. I had been living and feeling this way for almost 5 years, and it was not enjoyable. My quality of life was definitely affected by it. I would be planning around my period. I would be choosing to take my birth control pills back to back even more to avoid having a period during maybe a camping trip or a friend's birthday weekend, my own birthday. I don't want to be dealing with that on my birthday. And so by the time I was 20, I was actually told to go to the ER and sit in the emergency room to get hopefully a referral to a specialist, not just a gynecologist, but actually a specialist. And so I was able to do that in Toronto, and that's how I was sort of told to build my medical team. And this was not necessarily the easiest thing to do. Again, being a young person at the age of 20, a student trying to navigate becoming an adult while also dealing with this. But I was really convicted to listen to my body and the physical pain that I was in. And so I was able to get an appointment with a women's health clinic in Toronto and again, go through a lot of different testings. I basically felt like I was an experiment for doctors. Like they were learning from my body. And I was like, wait, what? Like, shouldn't you know a little bit more, not just like learn from me? So I was a little uneasy with the team that I had at the women's clinic, but I was told this is the best. This is where to be for the condition and the pain that I was feeling. And that's when I was first introduced to the disease called endometriosis, which at the time, again, this was 12 years ago. So this would have been 2011, 2010 is when I was really finding a lot of this out. I was told that endometriosis wasn't a condition or disease that any young woman would have. It was only diagnosed in women over 40, so there's no way that you could have it. And that the only way that they could diagnose it was through surgery, where they would actually go in through your abdomen and look around your organs and try to determine if the endometriosis tissue that didn't get shed out of your body and released during your cycle was actually reabsorbed and then would basically stick to different parts of your organs on the exterior of your organs. So the reason why it's so complicated is because it looks like a spider web in a way. So you can't really see it on imaging, like MRI or ultrasound doesn't really pick it up. You have to go in and see it. But all those little deposits of endometrial tissue are hormone related. So when you get your period, they're ripping and healing up. So you're getting all this like tearing inside of your body, not in your uterus. So you're not able to shed it out. So it's actually just depositing on the exterior of your ovaries or your fallopian tube or your uterus and causing scar tissue and damage, and can actually cause organs to adhere to each other. And it's normally just in that area of your body, but there are a lot of people that have endometrial tissue deposited in their rib cage, in their lungs. It can actually go anywhere in your body. So at the time, this wasn't known, and this was very much looked down upon for someone my age trying to get this diagnosis. And I was scheduled to have surgery in March, I believe it was 2011. And I was not comfortable with that. I was nervous. I was very anxious because the team that was going to be doing surgery already didn't believe that I could have had endometriosis. So I was already feeling like I was not trusted with what my body was telling me. So everything that I had been feeling, I had been tracking my symptoms. I had like month-long calendars where I would show when it would get worse, when it would get better based on the birth control pill that I was on, so what my cycle was looking like, and it still felt like no one was listening to me. And I was very, very fortunate to have a friend who was working at a fertility clinic at the time, and so I figured, you know what, she might know about endometriosis because unfortunately one of the downsides of endometriosis, I mean, there's mostly there's only downsides of endometriosis, but one of the severe ones is it causes infertility because of the damage it can do to your organs. And so I asked her if she knew anything or if there was any information at her clinic, because again, it being a fertility clinic, I assumed they would probably talk about this with their patients or maybe have patients that have endometriosis. And she actually introduced me to one of the doctors there. One of the lead doctors at the fertility clinic was also an endometriosis specialist and was leading research in Canada for endometriosis at the time and had been for years, actually. And so I was able to get an appointment with him. He was kind enough to see me, and he's still a working doctor, but it's a private practice, so this isn't covered by OHIP like you would normally have your healthcare covered, for those in Canada who understand. For those in America, nothing's covered unless you have insurance, but this was not covered. But he did take me on as a patient, and my very first appointment with him, I left feeling heard and seen for the first time in years. I went through the list of my symptoms. I had my, journal and my monthly calendars of what I was feeling, when I was feeling, all these different things. And I told him that I've been trying to fight for answers for years because what I was on was not working. I had, a low quality of life. I was having a hard time with going to university, working jobs, and dealing with this. And after our conversation, he looked at me and he said, "You don't need to have surgery to be diagnosed. I know that you have endometriosis based on all of this, and you're actually the age that we should be catching endometriosis. We shouldn't be finding out about it when women are 40 because so much damage has been done." And he recommended for me not to have surgery at the time. And that was music to my ears, again, because I was so worried about surgery. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel like I was being heard. And again, my physical body was screaming for help because of the pain it was in and what it was going through. But I was also listening to my gut and trusting my gut that the surgery didn't feel right for me at that time. And so I was able to cancel the surgery and I was put on medication through this specialist. And it was I would say an advanced type of treatment for endometriosis at the time. It was not commonly used. It was something that I think he was able to develop with a few other doctors and scientists that he was working with. And it truly changed my life. It's not something that I would recommend everyone go on because it is a pretty intense type of hormone therapy. So it's a variety of different hormones that you take that forces your body to go into menopause. So I was living in menopause basically all through my 20s. And I can tell you this now that menopause is not fun. And we should respect our, elders, our older women who have gone through menopause, because it is not a fun time. And it takes a lot out of you to just navigate the hot flashes, the insomnia. All of it is crazy. So just saying that, and I only had like 3 months of it because it was like a forced and sped up version of menopause. But I just know that I do not look forward to having menopause for real later on in life. But the relief that I was able to receive and the quality of life that I got after that and being on that medication for about a decade truly gave me so much freedom and wouldn't have happened if I didn't listen and trust to my physical body. And that's really the long-winded story that I'm trying to get to here is trusting your body is so important because your body is the only body you're going to have in this lifetime. You're not going to have an option to, upgrade to the next model like we do with our phones or even our cars. And your body is a part of you. And this is something, again, I've had to learn dealing with chronic pain. I also deal with chronic migraines, and that's a whole other episode and a whole other story. But I had for so long felt like my mind and my body were so separate. And part of trusting your body is realizing your body is who you are. It is the physical representation of who you are. And even if there's things about it that you don't like or you don't love at all, it is all that you have. And you need to learn to listen and trust in it in order to live a better life, to have better quality of living, to enjoy life, to not be so stressed or anxious about making plans, working around your period, working around different pain cycles, which yes, I understand that sometimes is what happens. And I know for a lot of people living in chronic pain, that is your daily reality. And I wish there was something that could be done for people who live in chronic pain like that, because I have been there and I still go through different phases and flare-ups of my chronic pain, whether that is with endometriosis or with migraines. And it's not an easy way to live. And I have so much compassion for people who have to navigate their day-to-day life like that. But for me, being able to trust my body through my teens and advocate for it, do quote unquote the homework of writing out my symptoms, what could have triggered them, when I'm feeling it, how often, really showing up for myself and continuously fighting for my health, I think is one of the best things that I've been able to do, which has led me to finally having the surgery with a team here in LA that I trusted wholly and completely. Their skill set, their experience, and their focus specifically on endometriosis, not to mention their belief in what I was saying, that I do have endometriosis. I have been diagnosed by a doctor, but not through surgery. And I have had other people throughout the last 12 years of my life tell me that I couldn't have endometriosis because I haven't had the surgery to diagnose it. And so I'm just overacting or making something up or looking for attention. And I think that's something that we need to stop doing to other people while we are navigating our own things. We can't tell others what's right and what's wrong with their body, especially if you're not a professional. So this team here really gave me faith and gave me confidence in their skills, which again, I was able to trust my gut, knowing that I felt very confident with this team in order to have surgery and to finally, I guess, be officially diagnosed, which, surprise, surprise, I do have endometriosis. They were able to take out all the different areas of endometriosis that had been deposited on my uterus and ovaries. They were also able to collect some cysts as well, because I do, again, from the age of 15, deal with ovarian cysts. And so for me, that is such a testament to trusting myself, to trusting the body that I'm living in, that I know better than anyone else, that my physical body is who I am and is connected to every aspect of my life. And I need to be able to trust my body in order to live the life that I want to live. And so the long story is, it took me almost, I guess I had my first ovarian cyst at 15 and I had surgery at 32. So that's 17 years of trusting my body, of advocating for it, of not backing down, because I know that there is something going on that needs to be addressed and needs to be looked at. And so I'm very, very grateful for healthcare, for the accessibility to healthcare, the privileges I had in Canada to get the support from a doctor who did not have to take me on as a patient, who had no reason to actually take me on as a patient, but did see that I was in need of support and understanding, and being able to receive that and being able to get the confirmation that what I have heard in my body for so long was in fact true was just such a relief, and such a confirmation that the trust that I had in myself was there for a reason, and that not giving up on myself was obviously the right thing to do. So I say all of this because a lot of times when we're navigating something in our physical body, it's easy to, I wouldn't say ignore it, because if it's a physical ailment, you can't really ignore it, but it is easy to minimize it or disregard it when other people don't believe what you're going through. So if you have doctors that don't really believe that you're navigating anything, or don't really think that your headaches are that bad or that your hip hurts that bad, then it's easy for you to think, well, I mustn't actually be in pain. I mustn't actually be feeling this way. I'm probably making this up. And I want you to trust your physical body. It is telling you something. It is telling you a lot of things on a daily basis, but especially when it comes to pain, it is telling you something. And you have every right to listen to it and advocate for answers for your health and for a better quality of life. Because to me, that is the one thing that I'm really focused on. I've never thought about living a long life. Yes, I would love to live a long life, but what's most important for me is to live a very full, happy, and fulfilling life that has quality to it. And that quality often means feeling good in my physical body, even when I'm going through flare-ups and issues, but being so connected to my body that I trust what it's saying and I'm able to respect it. And so if you're going through anything like this, please know you are not alone. Your body is there as a guiding light to get you the answers that you need and to be able to know what's right and what's wrong for you. So definitely listen to your body, journal, take note, maybe do a symptom tracker. These are all different things that I've done that have definitely given me confidence and belief in what I'm feeling. And if you ever need to chat about your physical feelings of going through, whether it is something like endometriosis, migraines, any type of concern with your body, I'm more than happy to chat as someone who's just been through it. I am not a professional, so I'm not about to try to diagnose anyone or suggest supplements. That is not my place. But I am more than happy to chat with people who are navigating this, because it can feel very, very isolating and lonely as you are the only one that believes in what you're feeling. But just know that your body is there and it is telling you exactly what you need to hear, and you just need to take a deep breath and trust in your body. And so I really hope this episode and my long-winded story of my endometriosis journey inspired you to maybe fight for that next doctor's appointment, get some answers, get some results, maybe try taking a new medication, try something that can be a part of getting your quality of life back, because that is what we are here for. We are here to live a very full and fulfilling life. I hope you have an amazing day, and remember to love yourself first.